Good afternoon or good morning, depends on where you're at. Welcome to Black Press's Fire Interview. This month, The Black Emperor of Broadway was released, the drama that celebrates the extraordinary story of Charles Gilpin, the first Black actor to star on Broadway. Charles Sidney Gilpin was one of the most highly regarded stage actors of the 1920s. That's right, 100 years ago. He played in critical debuts in New York and the 1990 premiere of John Drinkwater's Abraham Lincoln and the lead role of Brutus Jones in the 1920 premiere of Eugene O'Neill's The Emperor Jones. He also toured with the play. It was Gilpin's performance in The Emperor Jones that established him as the most recognized Black actor on American stage to play the lead in a serious drama. So today, to talk about this new film, The Black Emperor of Broadway, although his name is not spelled properly on this, it is Mr. Shaun Parkes. Welcome. Oh, there it is. It's spelled right now.
Hey, the magic. Hello, very good. I'm very pleased to be here. Hello.
Well, welcome to Black Press of America and our Fire series. We really appreciate it. Hey, so let's jump into it, Shaun. This role, what did it take to prepare for this role?
Well, I mean, look, okay, so quite obviously now your audience is wondering who's this black man? Because, first of all, he sounds English, so I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, I am. I was born in England. And so the very first thing that you have to do is consider many things. Yes, there's the accent. That's very obvious. We all know that. Then there's the time period. There's what historically was going on at the time. Then you have to understand the psychology of people's minds in those days. And what does that mean? Well, the psychology that says that maybe there wasn't a lot to do, maybe you weren't going to get the breaks that others might. And so in considering the psychology of the era, you then have to work out who people are. It's important not to do a piece about 100 years ago from the mindset of 2020. It's important to do a piece like that and try and gather as much information about the mindset of 1920. How easy is that? Not easy at all. But fortunately, then what you have to do is then understand, not the plight, I don't like using those types of words, but you know what I mean. You have to understand what has been happening on this planet when considering these subject matters. All of these things you mix into a pot. You put your own contemplation in there, and hopefully when you cast, when you put it out there, you can have some semblance of reality. If you just play the actual heart and soul of the piece. That might have sounded very kind of confusing, but it's it really is. It can be that confusing when playing a role that there is no, not even many articles about this man.
Right.
There certainly isn't many interviews about this man, and so you have to guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fortunately, you do have the Robesons. You do have various people who were around at the time, but a man like this. I don't think you'd see very much of, because I think he had the rebel nature, and I find that the rebel nature, 100 years ago or 100 years later, is not necessarily a voice that gets heard that much.
Yeah, and obviously you did your homework. You had to do with very little to go on. Obviously, like you said, no interviews, very little information, but you also had to know that 100 years ago, a black actor on Broadway, anywhere. I mean, what were the chances of that, and taking a lead role too? So what was that like when you had to get into that mindset and think about the fact that you are doing something, you're recreating something that really happened in a situation that was so unusual.
Well, fortunately, that question, it's not that it's easy to answer, but fortunately for me, I've been looking at that same story for the 100 years since. So I don't have to dig very far to know that these stories are still happening today.
Right.
If you see where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of a man like that, who's living in a country under those rules and regulations, who says, "You're not better than me. You're not better than me," is an energy that I know a lot of people have to this day. So you put two and two together. Yes. He did do something that no one else had done to that point, but I believe in his mind, he believed that he could do that.
Yeah.
So when I believe that you have that mindset that says, well, I can do it, I don't care whether you know that I can do it or not, and I don't know if you believe that I can or not, to me, it doesn't matter. I know I can, and I'm going to show you. Now, that is... again, that is something that I've seen in certainly in American history for as long as I can remember watching anything about American history. So that is an energy that I've again I can tap into.
Yeah, we are talking with Shaun Parkes, the star of The Emperor of Broadway, a great story about Charles Gilpin, the Emperor of Broadway, the first Black star on Broadway in 1920. Imagine that. We got a clip to show you too. And we're going to bring that up because then you'll kind of get the feel of what Shaun is doing here in this movie. Let's go to the first clip that we have.
We don't say that word.
We? Who's we?
Negroes, black people. We don't say that word to each other.
What word?
Nigga, sir.
Okay, drop the sir. That don't wash. Stop the shucking and jiving.
But don't use phrases that you don't know the meaning of.
Hey.
We.
Wow, that's quite amazing. So, Shaun, walk us through that scene because it's powerful. That little clip right there, it's very powerful. It kind of puts me in the mind of, if you recall, and this is obviously much later, Sidney Poitier and In the Heat of the Night. What was that like?
It's so weird talking about this because there are so many things going on here. It's hard to kind of like, I don't know if you know where I'm coming from, but okay, what is going on here? Well, for me, there were many conversations in this film that I've never heard in real life before. Many conversations in this film between a black man and a white man on talking about something that creatively, that not only have I not heard before in any kind of structured media, but just anywhere. So it was very interesting to explore these conversations. Very interesting to explore the idea that says that a black man in those days has a say, is intelligent enough to have a say.
Yeah.
As far as Eugene is concerned, I am the playwright, and you say what I want to say. I don't really care what you're saying. But then my guy's coming from the heart and soul of the piece, from the heart and soul of who we are as a people. And I believe it's quite possible that to this day, there are some fundaments that we still don't understand about each other.
Yeah.
And until we truly understand these things about each other, people will always be having those conversations, not quite understanding what the other person is saying. So what am I saying? He says, look, we're not like that. We're not really like that. You have a man with an agenda who says, well, you know, I don't care whether you're like that or not. This is a creative piece. I've written it. You're going to say what I tell you to say. You've got a person who's coming from the actual facts, from a place that he knows very well. And you've got someone from a creative place who doesn't really care about the real. If you know Brutus Jones as a character, equally, it is a very controversial piece. You know, you have a black man who is shipwrecked. Well, he's not quite shipwrecked. He jumped ship. He swims over to an island, and basically becomes the emperor of all these subjects. Now, all these subjects happen to be black. The culture over there happens to be one that seemingly they've been looking for someone to lead them. And this guy decides to lead them, but he leads them in a way that unfortunately they become his slaves. So you have a black man who has a bunch of essentially black slaves, and he treats them as such. Now, that is coming from the mind of a man who might not quite understand where Charles Gilpin is coming from. You know, it's a very it's a difficult thing to kind of go into, and it kind of needs like a few days to debate the psychology of this. But again, what was beautiful about the film is that we were able to have these discussions and understand a little bit about the idea that says that we really don't quite understand each other as well as we thought we might. Yeah, certainly in those days.
Yeah, and given that those discussions, but today being the backdrop, especially here in America with the Black Lives Matter movement and things of that nature, I'm sure that it had to have been pretty intense.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you have to be of a certain temperament to stand up in those days and have a voice. You know, so I believe Charles S. Gilpin, what I loved about playing this role is that it represents the real. It represents a story of a man who all he wanted to do was be an actor, just like anyone else. He was as creative as anyone else. He cared. He really cared as much as anyone else. So why shouldn't he be able to play as much as anyone else, you know? Yeah. Eugene O'Neill saw that in him. But unfortunately, controversially, Charles Gilpin decided that there were certain things about the play that he didn't like. Yeah. And decided to say something about that and stand up for himself. Well, at that point, that's where the trouble started.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're talking with Shaun Parkes, the star of The Emperor of Broadway. Many might know Shaun's other work, The Mummy Returns, Things to Do Before You're 30, and the acclaimed Notes on a Scandal. But Shaun, also, we know you made your breakthrough role with Human Traffic back in 1999. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, but the topic today is mostly about The Emperor of Broadway, and we have another clip for you guys.
Genuine Georgia Minstrel, get your tickets now!
I want to be a serious actor, doing serious plays.
You're an actor. You're a black man. They don't do black on Broadway.
So he's the dictator of a small island. He thinks he can only be killed by a magic,
A silver bullet.
Yes.
Has special powers.
He's a Negro? Oh, no. We've been down that road before.
If you don't like my idea, I'll find someone who does.
Who dare whistle that way in my palace? Who dare wake up the emperor? I got me a part in a Broadway show.
Best performance of the year. Played by a Negro actor named Charles S. Gilpin.
You are probably the most famous black man in New York right now. You are carrying their hopes of elevating the race.
That black trash don't dare stop him.
You stumbled.
You know, I don't like that word.
This is my play, Inside and Out.
Don't use phrases that you don't know the meaning of.
This is you, an actor, rising above the moment.
You don't say another word unless they're my words.
Everything will go back to normal one day. One day my fame will be over. No one will remember me, or that a Negro can do great things.
All my business.
Oh, my play's magnificent. He's just a good actor.
He's just a good actor. When you think about it, about in 1920s, to acknowledge that a black man was a good actor, that was something else, because there you had blackface. A lot of blackface was used, so they wouldn't use authentic black people. So when you watch this for the first time yourself after filming it, I want to know what the difference might be in while you're actually filming it and then watching it yourself as it's completed.
Well, I do have a problem watching myself. I wince, unfortunately. I'm one of those actors. It's a shame. But I don't always watch everything I've been in, and that's just the way it is. What gives me shivers about that is not my performance at all. It's, again, the idea of the people who came before us, who pushed, who sacrificed for us to be here. And if not for us to be here, for us to have a voice. The intelligent voices that turned up throughout history, that had everybody on the planet it's the people who sacrificed so much, not that they knew what they were doing at the time, but the people who sacrificed so much. They're, right now, I don't know if you know this or not, Charles S. Gilpin is as far as I know, still in an unmarked grave. No one knows where he's buried.
Wow.
This makes me want to cry right now. That's what watching that thing does. I don't think about me. I think about the fact that that guy's in an unmarked grave and no one knows about it. 100 years later. It makes me want to cry that guy has done so much for us, and we don't even know about it.
Yeah.
And yet another story of someone who just put some stuff down that'll never be seen.
Yeah.
And never be talked about. Hardly be written about, until someone, coming back to these guys in Provincetown, until someone decides that it's a good story and deserves to be told.
Yeah.
I'll always do those roles because it represents the real, and all these other roles that don't really represent the real that I've done as well, I love. I mean, you mentioned Human Traffic before. That was another one of those roles that for me represent the real. It represented my life at the time.
Okay.
It came across quite well over here, and I believe America as well for the people who watched it. But one of the reasons that it came over quite well is because this was real. These things actually happened, and I lived it. I love representing the real, as it were, and I love representing heartfelt stories. Charles S. Gilpin deserves a lot of respect. He was just another man who came along, who had self-respect, but also could back it up with his love for what he did.
And Shaun, in your research doing that role, did you come across what may have happened to his family? And by the way, Melba Moore, the great Melba Moore, is watching, and she says, "Good morning."
Good morning. Yeah, to be honest with you, we had his great grandniece who actually wrote the original play, who then, then something happened where we were able to write this film. They were able to write this film kind of from the play. You'd have to ask Arthur, the director, writer, the specifics of those things. But Again, as I say, this story has been grasped out of the depths. It was quite possibly about to be lost, with another generation who die and don't know that these things happen. I'm one of these people who believe that whoever you are, black, white, yellow, or brown, when you know your power, when you know what power you have, when you know where you come from, when you know where people before you, what people before you have done. Again, we're not just talking about black history here, any history you care to mention. I believe when you know, you can dare to dream. And this is just one of those stories where this guy, black, white, yellow, or brown, had people standing up after his performances. He really cared about his art and deserves to be remembered. I don't know if that answered your question, but I think I just repeated the last answer. But
well,
again,
you warned us beforehand. This is not your niche, these interviews, but that you've been doing great, and you got some fans out there. Heather Hayes says you're an amazing actor. We have one Facebook user who says, "Wow, I am looking forward to seeing that film." Shalonda C.A. Sankofa, if I said it right, says, "Good morning, Brother Shaun Parkes." And of course, David Youngblood, he chimes in. Angie Wellington says hello. So a lot of fans out there. So Shaun, and again, this is Shaun Parkes, an amazing actor here, and we really appreciate you coming on. But can you tell us, going back to the role of the Emperor, can you tell us the story of how you were cast in that role?
Again, this is a story for Arthur, because to be honest with you, right, and it's actually the end of my own kind of weird story, which maybe I'll tell you another time, but this was like the third chapter in a story of being offered films, and then those films not actually going, as in the bottom fell out, as in the money fell out, or whatever else. We started filming them, and then that happened once, and then a year later it happened again, and then a couple of years later, again, my agent rings me up and says, "So Shaun, these guys want you to do this role." I'm like, "Who? What guys?" "Doesn't matter. They want you to do this role." "Where are they from?" "Provincetown." "Provincetown? Where's that?" "Doesn't matter. They want you to do this role." "What's it about?" "Well, it's about a guy who actually lived." "Well, he actually lived." "Yeah, and he was an actor." "Really?" "Yeah, in America." "Really?" "Yeah." "Okay, sweet. I'll do it. Thank you. Who have I got to thank?" And that is essentially how it happened. Yeah. I didn't know how. To this day, to be honest with you, I still haven't actually heard the real story, but then I haven't really asked. I didn't even have a meeting for it. I just knew it was on the table. And the first time that I met the writer-director was on the first day of filming.
Yeah, wow. And you've done the stage, you've done television, you've done movies. Is one more challenging than the other?
Sometimes the grass is greener. Look, I started off, my mum actually told me the other day that she was sending me to drama classes at 4 years old. I don't remember this. I always thought it was from about 7 years old. I've done this for a very long time. I love it. I grew up in the theatre, or should I say, like most people my age, I'm 47 now. What does that mean? Well, coming from England, growing up in the 70s, the only black drama or TV that we had, like most of the world, was from America. If you want to talk about Roots, which was pretty much the first thing, the original series. If you want to talk about The Cosby Show, I know that's controversial these days. I don't care. I used to watch it, watched every one when I was young. I watched, obviously, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. If you want to talk about all the way up to modern day, if you want to talk about The Wire, like we've had a lot. If you want to talk about then the great singers, the Aretha Franklins, the James Browns. I mean, we could go on. The Boxers, it goes on. Your
And
history is out there.
y'all stole Tina Turner from us, you know that. I just want you to know you owe us something. Taking Tina away like that. What kind of nonsense is that?
Well, you've got listen, you've got Chewie, you've got Idris.
Yeah, we got Idris. You're right.
You got someone. We they're not over here anymore, my friend. You got David Oyelowo. You've got my goodness, the list goes on. But listen,
we got a civil war going on here, an international war.
Well, no, but listen, you know what? It's funny. I was living in LA this year, and one of my street dudes, one of the guys who sells me my my sheer soap and my incense on the street, he's in his 70s, and we were talking the other day. I mean, I'm in England right now, and I said, you know what the thing is about us Brits and you guys is that for the longest time, the talk has been how different we are. And he was like, oh yeah, man, chalk and cheese. I mean, chalk and cheese, the British black man and the American black man, chalk and cheese, man. And I said, listen, but you know what I've started to discover over the last 5 to 10 years is actually how similar we are.
Wow.
Our parents came over, or maybe our grandparents came over, a lot of them from the West Indies. Well, guess what? A lot of our parents and grandparents came over from the West Indies as well. It's just that some of them went over to America and some of them came over to England. But when I look at your cinema and your TV, I recognize all of it because I recognize the essence.
Right.
I recognize the essence. The essence is exactly the same. It may be 2 or 3 generations removed, but that DNA is there. So, I don't know if that answers your question. Probably not, but
no, it's a really good answer, and I wanted to let you see that Arthur Egeli, is that how you say his name?
I think so. I'll let him tell you what.
He says, Shaun, you are the only actor I knew that I thought could pull this role off, and you proved me right.
Oh my goodness me! Well, Arthur, if you're listening, maybe I'll say this. Maybe I was the cheapest version.
Wow!
Because maybe
are we doing some contract negotiations on Black USA?
No, look. Again, what I've said before 10, 15 minutes ago is the truth. When it's representing the real, like the real as well, it's going to be quite hard for me to turn that down because I've spent a long time, as a lot of us do, representing, fun and, The Mummy Returns is fun. It's like, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed filming that. I mean, I loved filming that for sure, to this day. Yeah. But then there are other roles where you feel, I don't know, you get some kind of nutrition from. Yeah. And this role that we've been talking about today, I have to say, having come over to your country and having lived there on and off for the last 10 years, having learnt about certain peeps who aren't in the limelight these days, but who were around back in the day, who did great things, who may or may not ever get a voice. I find that still being wowed about the fact that a Charles S. Gilpin actually existed, still being wowed by that in 2020 is a bit of a shame, but at least there are people out there who are trying to tell these stories. Arthur being one of them. I don't know where you got the idea, sir, but well done. Or not the idea, but at the very least, the gumption and wherewithal to actually get the money together and tell the story. I respect, because it doesn't happen that often.
Well, Shaun, Arthur says that he's worried that I won't be able to afford you in my next movie because you are definitely on the top of the list. Oh boy.
No, I mean, again, I've never been that actor. And some of my representatives say, well, you see, that's the problem. But in terms of looking for the finances, if I was that actor who was looking for the finances, I don't think I'd have done half the roles that I've done.
Yeah. Well, well, Michelle, I won't dare try to pronounce Michelle's last name, but she says Arthur. She tells Arthur, she says, you did a fantastic job directing the Black Emperor of Broadway. The legend Melba Moore, who mentions that she was on the Cosby Show, by the way, as Rudy's teacher, if you remember. I do. She says she loves your humbleness.
There's nothing else. There's nothing else to do. I mean, there literally is. I'm not in a position to do anything other than tell the truth, But fortunately, I like telling the truth. So I've been born around people who, believe me, they tell the truth. So they're not gonna allow me to do anything different. So that's all we have. I don't know how to do it any other way, and you would smell it a mile away. Believe me, if I was to go any other way. So bless you. Thank you for appreciating that. But it's actually, I can't really do anything else.
Wow. Well, Shaun Parkes, the Black Emperor of Broadway. Check it out. You've seen some great clips. Shaun, we're looking forward to seeing the entire movie. Tell folks before we end where they can see the movie.
Well, right now, I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, again, that's something to ask Arthur. You asked the wrong person. I'm not a technological
it's
dude.
all over the place.
I got it on my email, but I know you lot aren't going to get it on your email. Go find it. But I tell you what, it's one of those stories that it's worth checking out for the story alone, if nothing else. Don't watch it for Shaun Parkes. Watch it because this actually happened.
Yeah.
And there's a story, and there's a story in there that's quite intelligent. There's a dialogue in there that's quite intelligent, and I think it's a dialogue that's it's still not really being brought up today.
Yeah.
With everything that's being said, and I think debate-wise. I think as angry as people are on the planet right now, I still think that there needs to be a debate, people who can debate, people with voices where when they speak, the whole world listens because they speak from the heart and they're not just angry. So anger is important. It's important to have anger, but it's important to be able to, be eloquent as well. And so this guy was controversial, he was a bit of a rebel. He had a rebel nature, and I think that's what I love about him. And so, yeah, go check it out, man. Go check it out.
So, like the Black Emperor of Facebook, Black Emperor of Broadway's page on Facebook, and then you can find out how you can watch the movie. So check it out. It's facebook.com/Black Emperor movie. So check it out. Shaun, you are fantastic. We are so glad to have had you tonight at 7:00. Speaking of the legendary Melba Moore, she will be a guest on the show tonight, hosted by Taylor Thomas. And tomorrow, I'm so excited about tomorrow, like I was today with Shaun. Tomorrow, we got a baseball Hall of Famer, one of the all-time greats, Andre Dawson at 1:00 tomorrow. So check it out. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Go see the Black Emperor of Broadway. Everybody, stay safe, stay well, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Absolutely.